Episode 7, The Knowledge Challenge. Dr. Connor looked at Keith with contempt. He smiled and said, "How about this? You don't have to watch the movie anymore. I'll give you this instead, $500. That's enough for you to buy 10 movie tickets." As he spoke, he took a handful of $100 bills from his wallet and placed them on the table. He said, "I'll pay for your breakfast too. Now, if there's nothing else, you can leave." The salary of a police tech would never compare to a doctor's. This man was clearly looking down on Keith. A faint ripple of laughter was heard from the surrounding crowd. Keith's expression slowly became serious, but he kept his tone light. "As a doctor, you should know how to treat others kindly. Instead, you always seem to know how to judge and flaunt your wealth. Seems like you're lacking in professionalism, doctor. Over in the police, that attitude would never fly, even among the technicians." Keith's words were loaded with the implication that Dr. Connor was unreasonably vulgar and condescending and not fit to work in medicine. The other diners were taken aback. They felt that, although Keith may be a bit idealistic, he did have a point. In comparison, the young doctor seemed much less refined. The onlookers cast curious glances at Keith, waiting with bated breath to see how the drama would play out. Ding! You fulfilled the wishes of the masses to watch the show. Wish value, +1. Current progress, 3 of 10. Ari looked into Keith's eyes and smiled, but Dr. Connor's face suddenly became serious. He hadn't expected Keith to be so cunning. He had wanted to use his money to ridicule Keith and show off his own generosity and wealth to Ari. But he never thought that his plan might fail. The $500 on the table was particularly eye-catching, and Dr. Connor stared at it at a loss as to how to solve his problem. Ding! You've neutralized Dr. Connor's wish to mock you. Attribute point, +1. Keith hadn't meant to gain anything from what he'd said, and he couldn't help but feel happy at this unexpected result. Dr. Connor, on the other hand, flushed and said, "I've studied medicine for years. Do you want to talk about professionalism with me? I offered you that money to ease the atmosphere, and you rejected it. I offered Ari this rare medical text. Don't you understand?" The crowd was stunned at Dr. Connor's words. His comeback was nowhere near as good as Keith's. Keith picked up the treatise on cold, pathogenic, and miscellaneous diseases that was lying on the table. As he casually flipped through the book, he said, with a half smile, "Dr. Connor, you're incoherent." Hearing this, everyone in the cafeteria burst into laughter. Keith's words left Dr. Connor speechless. At first, the crowd had looked down on Keith, but now they felt that maybe this kid was all right, smart, even eloquent. A few of the trainee nurses in the corner were smiling like flowers in the sun, whispering to each other and giggling while throwing coy glances Keith's way. Ari looked at Keith, and without realizing it, a bright smile spread over her face. She remembered how his hand had brushed past her neck last night, and her face turned red again. Dr. Connor said angrily, "What right do you have to touch my things? Get your hands off that." Keith casually dropped the book back onto the table and said indifferently, "If you want to give this book to Ari, you must have memorized it thoroughly already." Hearing this, Dr. Connor sneered and said, "Of course. Someone like you, even if I tried to explain it, you wouldn't understand." Keith chuckled and said, "Speaking of which, I read this treatise on cold, pathogenic, and miscellaneous diseases when I was younger. How about this? Let's discuss the contents of the book and see whose summary is more accurate. If you win, I'll stop interfering in your dating life. Dr. Connor scoffed, but Keith pressed on. But if I win, you must never bother Ari again. Deal? After Keith laid out his challenge to Dr. Connor, the watching crowd was stunned for a moment. Their faces were frozen in disbelief. As an outsider, Keith wanted to compete in medical knowledge with a doctor? Wasn't he pushing his luck? Seeing people who had just formed a good impression of Keith began to shake their heads. Some even reverted to their earlier expressions of disdain. This police tech is getting too cocky. He's overestimating himself. He's just young and dumb. Even if he'd read the medical text, he'd never compared an actual doctor. If he wins, I'll eat the scraps from the kitchen. 5 mouthfuls per second. The onlookers chattered incessantly, but Dr. Connor ignored them and laughed. It's Keith, right? Well, Keith, you're stupid. Do you really think you can compete against me on medical knowledge? You really must be stupid. Dr. Connor made a show of wiping a tear of laughter from his eye. Okay, it's a deal. He looked at Ari and said, Ari, don't worry. I'm going to crush this fool. Start picking your outfit for our dinner date tomorrow. Ari was so anxious that tears welled up in her eyes. She grabbed Keith's arm and whispered, Hey, why did you say all that? This is only going to end badly for me. Keith gave Ari a reassuring look, then turned to Dr. Connor and said, There are specialties in the field. You can pick first. He handed the book to Ari. Ari will be the judge. I'm sure we both trust her to be fair. At this point, Ari could only accept it. She took the thick manuscript and sighed gently. Dr. Connor wasn't worried at all. This was his best opportunity for a counterattack. He launched into an endless discussion on the treatments of the common cold that were recorded in the treatise Ari was holding. Ari quickly flipped to the relevant page and compared Dr. Connor's answers with what was written in the book. The surrounding crowd nodded their heads as Dr. Connor waffled on. Damn, doctors really have to know their stuff. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what's in the textbooks. I know, right? It's amazing the way he's reeling off all that information. If only my son was that talented. Ari gave a rueful smile, but when Dr. Connor saw it, he became even more excited. From time to time, he would glance complacently at Keith. Finally, Dr. Connor finished his recital and said proudly, Oh well, Ari, am I right? Ari sighed softly and nodded. The 4 methods you mentioned and the notes from the distinguished doctors are almost exactly correct. When the crowd heard this, they all nodded their heads enthusiastically. Although Dr. Connor was vulgar, he was still a doctor, and a talented one at that. Some of the older ladies even leaned over to whisper to Ari about how much a doctor like that could earn in a year. If Ari married him, they winked, she would never have to worry about money again. They barely even glanced at Keith anymore. No one thought for even a second that this junior from the precinct could be Dr. Connor. Dr. Connor, on the other hand, was determined to see Keith make a fool of himself. He sneered and said, I'm finished. Keith, it's your turn. The crowd's eyes swiveled to Keith. Not many of them bothered to hide their amusement. Ari looked at him helplessly and gave a weak smile. Keith took a look at the expressions of the crowd and smiled non-committally. How about this? I'll also discuss some of the treatment methods for the common cold. It will save Ari the trouble of having to find a whole new chapter. Ding! Came the sound in Keith's head. instant memorization skill activated. For the next 10 minutes, the room was stunned into complete silence. The only sound was that of Keith talking endlessly about how the common cold related to the theory of various diseases. The accuracy of his narration was spot on. He recounted all kinds of cases, as well as various things he'd inferred from them. He even included the footnotes added by the distinguished doctors. He didn't miss a single word,